All right, this is interesting. It caught my attention. The U.S. gambling industry adopted a new responsible marketing code that will ban sportsbooks from partnering with colleges to promote sports wagering, bar payments to college and amateur athletes for using their name, image, and likeness, and end the use terms free or risk-free to describe promotional bets.
Well, there's no – it's again like that's a lie. There's always a risk. Like, how can you because here's the thing. Maybe technically the risk-free thing would be, okay,
not to bet?
Yeah, but like if you do the thing, you just do the one bet and you don't lose any money on that promotional thing. But how many people just do that? Like, I'm doing the one bet. Oops, no, sorry. See you later, MGM Grand. I'm done. That was a fun little foray into gambling. Yeah, they've got to keep it pretty clear here with college athletes and NILs, considering that there's not anybody, other than a state law that prohibits NIL partnerships with some of these people out there. And, some don't feel the need to mention it, or some just don't exist. Some don't have state laws on NIL. So you could have somebody there getting money from a casino, and then that gets really – the waters get murky there when it comes to that.
Yeah, I don't quite understand what this means. Outside of just the general headline, I'm not sure – like what this entails.
I think if anything, just reiterating what they're trying to stand for.
I honestly, I understand that it cost myself a sponsorship here, but I start to hear about the gambling side of stuff, especially like the legal side of it, and my eyes just roll in the back of my head. I could not care less. I'm not saying that you brought up that story, but it's just not of interest to me, but I understand that it's become such a huge angle and a huge moneymaker and a huge everything. And that's where a lot of it's going. Like, the big sponsorships, you see it plastered off every show imaginable, basically. And I get they got to curb it somewhere, because otherwise it'll wrap its hands around the entire sports industry and, suffocate it with gambling money and advertisements and all of that. So I do think there needs to be some brake checks along the way. I don't know what all this actually entails, but I think it's good to have some measures to prevent it from just being wide open, free-for-all Wild West type of scenario.
You start letting you start letting collegiate athletes start to promote gambling, man,
I don't think that's good.
That's one of the things that they're saying. Also, the new rules to which all the association members have agreed require that anyone depicted in sports betting advertising be at least 21. They also restrict advertising to media where at least 73.6% of the audience is reasonably expected to be 21 or older. So, I don't know where they came up with 73.6%.
So,
yeah, not buying this segment of Dora the Explorer brought to you by Caesars. I think so. Well, first of all, that's just smart, because you can – I don't know that kids can get on and lie about your age and, put your parents' driver's license in. No, I mean, what for? It was more effort than it's worth.
Here's one of the things that's interesting as well is that it is, and Craig, your lack of interest. First of all, one of the favorite segment that I watch, if I am even up to watch Scott Van Pelt at night, is the Bad Beats. I love that, and that's really more than the gambling of who it was. It's just the way and how brutal it can be, actually. I love that segment, but are your lack of interest in all that mainly because you don't?
I mean, I enjoy that segment. I think that's a fun segment and all that. I think it's just partially that I don't, and so therefore when I turn on the TV or I read, a story, I don't know. I'm just not into it. It's not something that fascinates me. It's not something where I'm like, oh, I got to get my FanDuel ready for today. I know people that are like, they got to get my daily lineup in, and I see it consume some people, and I see the up and down nature of it, and I've just not dabbled with it. If it was legal in Texas, then maybe I'd find, ways to be more induced by the craziness of it, I guess, or the wild roller coaster that it can be and the money-making opportunity that it is and all that. But I don't know. It's never been legal here, and I haven't hopped on those apps and tried to find my way through. It's not that big a deal to me. And like when I watch games, I know I had a friend growing up that he basically bets just to make the games interesting. And I feel like you get to that point, then what's the point? Like if you get to the point where you only watch it because you've got $50 riding on it or something, if that's the only way you enjoy it, then maybe you just don't really enjoy it that much. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I look at it. I don't need to be convinced to like something because I have money riding on it. I just won't watch it. You know, like
you wonder if there's anyone who watches just games after games after games that doesn't have a favorite team.
And gamblers.
Well, from Sir blah blah blah. No, Sir blah blah blah. You lost me at reasonably expected when the question or the comment was where at least 73.6% of the audience is reasonably expected to be 21 years or older. Mike Bean, it's a blast. Just control it. Well, that could be like even drugs.
I'm not anti-gambling or a PSA or anything. I've just never seen the appeal. It's never struck a chord with me. I've never been like, oh my gosh, I got to put money on this. It's just not in my DNA to wager. Now, if I lived somewhere where it was free and legal and it was easily accessible and all that, then maybe I'd throw some money down on a game or two. But that's not where I live, and I just never got into it. But I have no issue with those as long as you control it and you don't hurt other people. Then go wild and have fun. But it's just not something that I've ever like. I'm watching Boston College Duke on a Tuesday night because I've got the spread 7 and the Blue Devils. That's just never going to be me
either.
But I get that that's a lot of people out there, if not a majority of sports fans at this point. I mean, you see the advertisements everywhere, and that seems to be the point of every single conversation. I think too. I get tired of listening to podcasts where I know these people aren't really like that great at gambling, but because of their advertisers or because that's the thing you're expected to do now is talk spreads on every single game. Like that's 90% of the conversation at this point. And I also get the appeal of that, but it becomes a little overkill for me, or it has at least.
This segment brought to you by Caesar's Palace, by the way, in Las Vegas. We appreciate that.
I save my gambling for I do DraftKings during fantasy football season, but I don't do it. I don't really get into other than like entering a lineup in a like a dollar league or something that I feel is really good that I've done. Then doing it with just a group of friends where it's like I know that the 15 people in this we're all putting in $5 in this lineup and that's it. And then when I'm actually at casinos, I'll gamble a little bit, but I don't like.
Well, why else would you go to the casino?
I mean, like other than that, like, watch? But I don't. Even like when we were in New Orleans the last time around, Amanda and I went in to Harrah's a couple times, and we were like, I just really don't want to. I did a slot machine for like 5 minutes. I was like, that's enough for me. I don't.
It can be addictive,
but I do like.
But most anything else in life can be addictive.
Yeah, that's true. But I do like that we're allowed to talk about it in sports now. But I am with Craig on. There's a lot of podcasts where there's a lot of sports bros that are out there trying to tell you how to win money, and there's only a few people you should really listen to on that are really, really good at it.
Phil Venzer in Vegas right now is like, obviously, we're not saying we're against it. We're just not, some of us aren't like dive deep into it. And that's the whole point. I've been to casinos when Baylor was at the Sugar Bowl, dropped by like almost nightly and went over there and took a couple $100 in there or $50, whatever it was, and enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, this isn't an anti-gambling message by any means. I'm just saying I don't do it. I don't have interest in it. I don't look into it. I don't care about it. And it doesn't affect my sports enjoyment one way or the other. I know people that if not for gambling, they wouldn't enjoy sports. I know people who are like me who don't need it whatsoever. Maybe they still dabble in it because it spices up like a Wednesday night NBA game or something, and they like to just casually bet on that. That's all cool. I have no judgment whatsoever as long as you like I said, you're not hurting anybody else. So, yeah, this is by no means an anti-gambling thing. I just am not into it, just me personally. But I certainly understand the appeal for those who have that itch. And I don't know, if I lived in Vegas or I had a bunch of money and had money to burn, then maybe I'd be into it.
Yeah,
I've always been of the opinion that you can. It's easy to gamble when you have the money to lose that you're gambling.
Yeah.
And I've been more confident when I've gone into a casino knowing that I could throw down a few $100 rather than if I walk in there with a $20 bill and try to, I'm done like that.
We will get it in Texas probably in the next gubernatorial cycle when we have a different governor, and also when some local state representatives, I'm sorry, like, I'm not saying this because I want this to happen, but, like, you know, it comes for everybody because you get old, will pass away because they're in just enough pockets to keep it from happening and taking just enough money from casinos, actually, that, you know, funnel it under the name of, like, you know, the Committee for Family Prosperity, and it's really a casino in Oklahoma.
That means Oklahoma and Louisiana will become even more rich or richer because they won't be spending money on keeping people from voting on gambling in Texas.
But
right?
Exactly. But those people are going to have to die because when they've been the state representative from their district in this small town forever, and then, like, somebody who's like 45 years old will be like, I'm going to run against Earl, and then the people in town are like, why are you running against poor Earl? You know, it's all he's got. And then that guy loses terribly, and then it has to wait for Earl to pass away.
Kealani, if you took away the fantasy sport aspect and the gambling part, interest in televised sports might drop 80%.
Oh yeah, I understand. I understand the appeal of it. I understand the fascination. I would imagine, without even looking, that like 95% of the chat room bets on. I have no qualms with that.
No.
Again, it's just I don't do it, so it's not something that when I hear gambling this or gambling that I'm like, ooh, what'd you say? Like what is that? It's just it's an area of the industry that it's just not one that
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Pay that much attention to.
Mike Bean, I could easily fall in degenerate mode if I were younger. And then how about this one? And then we got a break for Mac Rhodes. What will be approved first in Texas, marijuana or gambling?
It might happen at the same time. Because it, like, again, it's a whole, well, I mean, they're changing marijuana rules right now because they essentially don't prosecute it. I was at the crawfish boil the other day. I was there with a guy who's a federal prosecutor, was one of the guys there, and he said, yeah, they don't really prosecute it anymore unless you're, like, just bringing in tons. But, you know, if you've, you know, as far as misdemeanor stuff, that's over, and medicinal marijuana is happening, and it's slowly getting there. But, probably marijuana first and then gambling, but it might happen at the exact same time because they're kind of the same people that vote against each of them, or they're the same people.
Forever, Tyler, Smith County was the wettest dry county in the history of the world and earth. And one of the reasons was a lot of people just did not want it in their city for beliefs and Christian beliefs or whatever it was. You drove 20, 25 miles south to Palestine or Lake Palestine. You drove 20 miles east to Kilgore across the county line, or 15 or 20 miles north up to, I guess, north of or near Big Sandy to get it. And all of a sudden now you can go anywhere. They passed it. It's been many years.
Where'd you get your speeding ticket that time?
Oh, Malakoff.
Malakoff had a honky tonk right there.
Yeah.
Right on the, like, Dry County, not Malakoff. It's right there.
Yeah.
So.
And we appreciate all of you. I got to read Steve. We have gambling in Kansas, weed in Missouri, so a lot of the sinners driving back and forth across the state.
Yeah. No, I mean, Texas is one of the last holdouts, I suppose. And, you know, like I said, if they pass that measure at some point and you can sports gamble, I could just go on my phone and do that rather easily, then on occasion I'd probably do it. I definitely get the appeal, and I know why we're swarmed with it, because it's a cash cow. It is the cash cow in sports, and Kalani is absolutely right that 80% of this audience, or 80% of your average, you know, college football game, I know that not everybody's just watching that for nostalgia or for tradition. Most of that is gamblers, and that's why the industry is absolutely exploding. But I also just kind of hesitate to go full on board with that because that kind of concerns me a little bit. And that's why measures like the one that we started talking about to begin this conversation are important, because, yeah, you absolutely could see a scenario where gambling gets its grip into certain sports, and we know how those stories go, and especially college athletes. I mean, you can see where that could go real sideways really quickly.
Anytime I hear gambling and college athletes, I think about the old, was it Boston College that had the big gambling scandal back in the day? Sorry to interrupt you on that. Hayden Maxwell, thanks